going back to Portland, there was a moment we both are sitting there with everybody at the speakers dinner.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it's you, me, JP's there,
Oh,
James
good old
Fitzgerald,
Yeah.
Miranda and Julian, the organizers of the event, and then late, Chris Spieler comes in.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this, but Chris comes in. He comes a little late, and I don't know Chris, especially like how you do him, but he felt kind of down. He just kind of seemed like sad, like, I don't know, maybe he had a shitty flight. I didn't know what it was. And then we were all kind of going around the room, kind of talking, just shop. And if you remember this, it got to Chris, and Chris was at a moment in his business where he was in dire straits. I think word for word, he sat there and was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. We're about to go out of business. I don't even know why I'm talking today. And I remember being rocked, like, oh, fuck. Like, I think of Chris Spieler like I thought of, like, you know, I'm like, this guy, like, he's the man. And then, you know, I think back, I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen any kind of content where Chris talks about business. I'm just making the assumption that things are going great. And I think you had him later on your podcast just last year talking about him buying that building.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there, and that really sunk in for me that there are even the woes of gym ownership. I've experienced them. I experience them now, experienced them during COVID. Everyone's experiencing them. But that hit so hard for me, that moment because he was extremely vulnerable.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how it went down or what he said, but I do remember him not being like overly optimistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But now, you know, I mean, I think for him, he was one of the examples of a pro athlete who kind of had to, you know, say, hey, what's our strategy? And, you know, when I talked to him and his wife basically had two ways of looking at it. They could either keep continuing the business and then their asset becomes what they buy for the building, or kind of sell the business and pivot into something else. And I think that I know he's decided to go build his, to go own his property, similar to the way you do. And yeah, I mean, it's a really good example of how there's a couple things as I get older, I'm learning, right? Like, not everybody's crushing it all the time, regardless of what people think. And you might be good in one area of your life, but there's always areas you're trying to improve on. And I think that's very humbling, right? It's one of the reasons why I love jiu-jitsu, by the way. But yeah, that was an example of that, right? Like, he's looked at as a star in what he's doing, but he was also vulnerable and open enough to say, like, hey, I got these challenges.